Well, this past weekend, Back to the Future went back to theaters for its 40th anniversary, so what better time to review this movie other than right now?
Hey, Scott!
It's an iconic classic, one of the most beloved films of all time, and personally, one of my favorite two films. If someone asked me what my favorite movie is, I would probably say Back to the Future, because it's not controversial, everyone loves it. My other favorite movie, however, is... well, this is my other favorite movie.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Go ahead and make fun of me, I can take it. Now everyone knows the story of Back to the Future, but I'm gonna give you a recap anyways. It starts off in 1985 in Hill Valley, California, where we're introduced to this high schooler named Marty McFly, who has a terrible home life. I mean, his parents are losers, his siblings are chopped, and this guy named Biff takes advantage of Marty's dad. I think the movie was trying to make you feel bad for him, but I always felt a little bit more jealous towards him, because he's a character that's just naturally cool. It's very hard to have aura like him when he's skateboarding and stuff. I mean, he even has a girlfriend, for crying out loud. So he may think his life is bad, but he didn't think about me not being cool or having a girlfriend. Apparently it never occurred to him that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Wait a minute. Quick disclaimer though, who even needs a girlfriend when they can have subscribers like you? Anyways, in the middle of this one night, Marty goes to a mall parking lot with his friend Doc, who's like 80 years old, and they test Doc's new invention, a time machine made out of a DeLorean.
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
And it can travel through whatever time you set it to once it hits 88 miles per hour, which, fun fact, DeLoreans actually only go up to 85 miles an hour, but I mean, since Doc is a scientist, he probably modified it. However, this is powered by plutonium, and in order to get that, Doc had to rip off some terrorists, but then they show up at the mall parking lot. They kill Doc, Marty escapes in the DeLorean, but goes up to 88 miles an hour and time travels back to 1955. Then he wanders around Hill Valley where it's very old and dandy. It feels like a dream for him. And he comes across his dad, except now they're the same age, and he finds out his dad was bullied by Biff as a high schooler. The parallels were crazy. And he also finds out his dad was spying on his mom, but then he falls out of a tree, almost gets hit by a car, so Marty saves him but gets hit by that car. And he's taken into custody at his mom's house, which in the original timeline, George was supposed to be hit by the car, taken into custody, and then that's how he fell in love with the mom, Lorraine.
These timelines are so confusing.
But now in this new timeline, Lorraine falls in love with Marty, which makes Marty slightly uncomfortable. Now eventually Marty's able to track down Doc from 1955. He explains the whole situation on how he traveled through time, and Doc's mind is completely blown. And since there's no plutonium to power the DeLorean in order for Marty to get back to 1985, they're able to figure out that lightning will strike a clock tower in the city at a very specific time at Saturday night, and that can power the DeLorean to get Marty home once he's up to 88 miles per hour, but it has to be super precise. And they also realize Marty completely ruined history by altering it to where his parents never fell in love, and so in order for him to exist in the future, he has to find a way for them to still fall in love.
There is nothing good about this at all.
He pretends to be a student at their high school. A bunch of shenanigans happen so he can get his dad to raise up his mom. Mind you, he only has like a week to do so. And finally, Marty and his dad hatch up a very inappropriate plan in order for him and his mom to fall in love. It backfires after Biff shows up, but it turns out for the better. And his mom and dad do fall in love. Marty even plays a song at the dance. I mean, he just goes crazy.
Turn around, bite eyes. Every now and then I fall apart.
And then after a lot of tension, Marty does successfully travel back to the future on Saturday night. But he gives himself a little extra time for when he travels back to 1985 so he can warn Doc about the terrorists. He even tried to warn him in 1955, but Doc refused to accept the responsibility of knowing too much about the future because it can backfire and severely alter events. But the car breaks down once Marty arrives in the future. He runs out of time to tell Doc about the terrorists, and Doc still dies but actually lives because he had a bulletproof vest on. And he did read the letter Marty wrote him in 1955 after all. But when Marty returns home, everything's better than just back to normal. His family is rich, successful, and confident. Although it would be weird because it's kind of a different version of his family that had different experiences. But let's not think about it too much. They all live happily ever after. And then Doc shows up in a cliffhanger to set up the sequel, except they were not really setting up the sequel. They didn't even plan on making a sequel originally. It was really just a here we go again ending, kind of like the Captain Underpants books. And there you have it. That is a recap of Back to the Future for the two people that somehow still haven't seen the movie. I mean, what are you doing with your life? You've had 4 decades to watch this. I don't care if you were born yesterday. Grow up and watch this gosh darn work of art. So I think there's some great character work in this movie. Everyone's all quirky. They all have their wildly different personalities, and I think the casting was perfect for everyone. It's crazy to think about. They started filming with Eric Stoltz playing Marty McFly, and they got pretty far into filming with him as the lead character, but he didn't really get along well with everyone else. His acting style wasn't really what they were looking for, and so they had to fire him like halfway through production and get Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, although Eric Stoltz still played him in the alternate timeline from The Flash.
Eric Stoltz is your boy in that movie.
Anyways, though, I think Robert Zemeckis was a perfect director for this movie. I mean, he's a great director, and this was back in his prime. And so there's just some very good cinematography. Every single shot is iconic. The costume design is great. And the makeup was also great for the 1985 versions of certain characters where they had to look older. I will admit, it fooled me the very first time I watched it. I did not realize those were not middle-aged adults, which in my defense, the first time I watched this, it was in a car ride on one of those little pixelated DVD players, and I also couldn't fully hear the audio, so I didn't realize it sounded like young actors. But then when I was rewatching it in theaters recently, obviously on a massive screen, yeah, you can tell it's makeup. I gotta say though, the environment for 1985 and 1955 Hill Valley are both great in their own ways. It does a good job of showing the differences between the time periods, while at the same time it also feeling like the same place. And this has one of the best soundtracks of all time. You got Huey Lewis in the News.
That's the power of love.
You got the Johnny B. Good song, and the Alan Silvestri score is just one of the best film scores of all time. It captures the magic and escalates everything, especially in moments of high tension or excitement. And the story is just told in a great fashion. It never feels rushed, but it does not mess around. I mean, it goes through a lot of plot points very quickly. The way it transitions from scene to scene is just done very well. It's one of those movies where you cannot leave the theater to use the bathroom, or the experience is just going to be ruined for you. And just overall, the idea of history repeating itself is a cool theme. There's so many Easter eggs and little details that you'll notice when you rewatch it. It is a very rewatchable film, and even though the film is about time travel and that kind of stuff, there's a relatable element in there, or at least somewhat, where it's about a teenager going back in time to where his parents were teenagers. And obviously that's never happened to anyone, but everyone has wondered, what if that did happen? Would I be friends with my parents if they were my age? And so it's relatable in the sense that everyone's kind of imagined a scenario like that.
Ready?
Now this is one of the only movies I would call perfect, but if we're being honest with ourselves, there is no such thing as a perfect movie. So what are some things I can nitpick here and there when it comes to this movie? Obviously, the Pepsi product placement should have been Coca-Cola, which we all know to be far superior. Otherwise, though, I will not complain about any of the other product placement because I actually think it makes it feel more real. Not to mention, there are some deleted scenes you can find online that just kind of expand scenes. And while the movie in and of itself, the finished product is good, I don't think it would have hurt to have it be a little bit longer and keep those extended scenes in. And of course, you could argue this is like the worst movie ever because it heavily relies on coincidences in order for certain plot points to be pushed forward and for the audience to understand what's going on. But what the heck, I love this movie. On the shortwave meter, I'm going to give it a 99 out of 100. If I could describe it in one word, I'd use the word iconic. It's just a masterpiece, and the concept very well lent itself to sequels, which I guess we can talk about in another video. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think about Back to the Future in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.